Anderson Cancer Research Center in Houston, Texas, has found that 80% of what's told to you the day you get your diagnosis, you forget by the time you reach the parking lot. And yet, when you go home, what do you probably do if you've got a diagnosis? You go online and you swim through a sea of good, bad, accurate, inaccurate, manipulative, and not helpful to very helpful content. In other words, our instinct now, it's the most interesting, exciting moment. If I have a question, I can fingertip my way to some information. It might not be the right answer, it might not be sufficient, but the instinct is there. So we've got to figure out how at work do we do that. Now, I hope you don't dislike me for what I'm about to say, but I was appointed by the President of the United States to be on the Board of Visitors for the Central Intelligence Agency. And part of our role is to oversee not the intelligence activities, but the hiring and development of intelligence officers. So what did we do after 9/11 in the US with the intelligence community? Because in fact, all the information was already there. We knew about most of the people who were flying those planes. Even when the US went into Iraq, there was a lot of information about what might not have been there. So what did the intelligence community build? They now have a wiki. Of all places, they have a wiki. They have an intelligence wiki. Why do they have the wiki? Because their understanding is that mastery comes from access to lots and lots of data points. Lots and lots of data points. And so they want to make sure that they unclog the arteries behind. Now, you still may have a bad decision made by an executive. You can give them all the mastery in the world, and they still might not listen to it. And then the last part of that is a sense of purpose. But if we go back up for a second, one of the things that I want to have you think about is some takeaways from here, is that we are also moving pretty rapidly into a period of time in which video is changing its role in knowledge. That we are becoming increasingly a video culture. The Gardner Group that tracks video and tracks data processing, and I think you'll know this as an IT person, is one of the biggest challenges right now is that when you do a web search, in over 60% of the cases, when you land on a site, they're going to make you an offer of video. And that an increasing amount of time that people are on the web, they are watching rather than reading. They are watching rather than reading. And we believe that we're at the early stages of that. We're at the early stages of that. So what becomes really interesting is what role will video play? Now, I want to be a futurist for a moment. It's, in our view, going to play two very different roles, both of which you're going to have to prepare for. One role that's already happening is the growth of live video. So some of you saw me right before I went on. I was having a video chat with somebody in my organization from my tablet. And all day long, I'm on, I don't have phone calls much anymore. I primarily am having video conversations. We test things at the Maise Center. So I want to introduce you to one of our newest members of the Maise Center. Okay, that's called MC Robo. Okay, this literally exists. We bought it for $4,000 2 weeks ago. What it is a robot that I can drive from anywhere in the world. That's kind of like a Segway, if you will. And at the top is a high-definition video camera that I can point, including I can take a picture, display a picture, and I can get your attention either by coming up and bumping you or by flashing lights on. Now, very often, a piece of technology is invented without a reason. Okay, because let's understand the sequence. It's technology, methodology, experimental practice, better practice. Eventually, maybe we get to really good practice in that sense. But So we became interested, and I've been literally taking MC Robo, which my staff named after Maise Center Robot. I've been taking MC Robot to a variety of places. So one of the first experiments that we did was giving this to a kid in a hospital, and then putting the robot in their classroom back at the school. Now, think for a moment of what, because obviously you could bring the kid in on a plasma screen via video conferencing or Skype or G video or Cisco telepresence. But what would this do if the kid could actually navigate around? So just to your neighbor for a second, imagine what that robot for a kid in hospital who's going to be there for months with a serious illness, if he had or she had one of these with their name on it at a school. Just talk to your neighbor for a second about that. Okay, hello. So what would Robo, and remember this is version 1, okay? But what would Robo do that you couldn't just do by coming into a big plasma screen or onto a PC? Move around, go to lunch. You could dress them up. In fact, I won't even tell you what my staff has been doing with Robo in my absence. So I got them, I never had one, I put a floor level mirror in so I can drive Robo over to see what they've done to Robo in my absence, you know. What else could Robo do? Interact, have a whispering conversation. Because there's actually a whisper voice there, because sometimes you don't want to just be able to talk to the entire group in that process. Now, I'm not suggesting you go out and all buy one of these, but what I am suggesting is we are going to have to see a shift of how do we physically represent and iconically represent our workers who are not in our office, but include them in processes. So we actually took Robo to a leadership training program. And we wanted to see, so we tried 2 different things. One day, Robo was a student who couldn't be there, but the next day, we had the CEO be Robo. And we actually dressed Robo up in very CEO-looking colors. And we took about 2 hours to train the CEO on it. It was amazing, because in a sense, what he now says is, I'd like to come in to every leadership program for about an hour and be able to sometimes talk to the whole group, but people would actually sit down and they'd be in these animated discussions with Robo. Now, he immediately sent me a list of things he wants. He wants arms that can move there, you know, so he could like tap somebody on the shoulder. He wants a poker, so we already are thinking about, Robo 2.0 and the like. But we are gonna have to think about, as we disperse the workplace, what's going to be the role of live video, whether it comes into our smartphones, into tablets, into computers, into telepresence. What's going to be that? I'll show you how rapidly we're changing. I had a conversation with the senior leadership of Cisco 2 years ago about a company that they were about to buy, which was the flip camera. They were so excited. John Chambers was so excited about buying the flip camera. They spent literally hundreds of millions of dollars to buy it. Yesterday, he shut it down. Why? Not because it didn't work, but because most of you have your own flip cam on your phone. So literally, from the point of engagement to being irrelevant was 21 months. in that process. So if we start to think about what the rate of business is in that element, but I think in